So the bonus tracks then on Who, there are 3.
They're all done by Pete.
They're all Pete's, I guess, demos
in a way
that have been fleshed out.
Yeah, they do not really involve any of the band members. Pete really plays everything. He writes them all. He sings them all.
At least one of them involves a good number of the band members.
Okay.
And that's the first one. This gun will misfire.
Right. Which really kicks it off. This was one that when the album ended, we were like, okay, the album ended on a bit of a down note. So the album is over, and we're on bonus features now. All right, fine. This one starts, and we immediately sit up and go, this is a jam. Yes.
This slaps.
Yes. As Garrett will probably allude to, this needed to be on the album.
I talked to my brother about this, who doesn't particularly like The Who. He knows who they are. I've played a few songs of them before, and he's like, yeah, they're fine. And I said, all right, so I played I'll Be Back and This Gun for him. And I said, which of these do you think is the bonus track on the album? And he said, is That Gun Will Misfire, is that on the album itself and I'll Be Back the bonus track? And I said, no, it's actually backward. He said, really? Because this gun is great.
It's a really, really rockin' track. It's definitely got a fuller sound than I'll Be Back. Which, to be fair, I like I'll Be Back, and I really like this one too. So if you're gonna pick which one goes on the album, and you pick this one, I'm not gonna argue with you.
Yeah. So what I've done is I've swapped the order of those.
Right.
So that I hear That Gun Will Misfire as the 6th track or so.
Yeah. You can definitely classify this one more as a Who song.
I think so. Yes.
It's got a much fuller sound, and
there's a great drum part that's kind of Tomorrow Never Knows-ish.
A little bit, yeah.
Or it's got the snare and toms in the same beat. It's got a great acoustic guitar sound that you mentioned sounds very Buffalo Springfield to you.
Yes, there's a riff that kind of repeats where it's kind of going like da-da-dum-dum, da-da-dum-dum, just repeating in between the vocal lines. The song Bluebird by Buffalo Springfield has that exact same riff, more or less, and so it reminded very much like Buffalo Springfield, and that Bluebird's a track that that keeps treading just like This Gun Will Misfire. Right. And Pete has covered Stephen Stills. They did How Far on the solo album, which, to be fair, that's Stephen Stills solo, not Buffalo Springfield, but they definitely know who they are.
Yeah.
They performed at Woodstock, well, not together, but they were at the same place. They know who they are, and it reminded me of that sound, even if it's not what he was going for, but it also reminds me of Sparks towards the last half.
Oh, especially in the bridge.
Yeah.
Where it's it's just, that sound has always resonated with me. Mm-hmm. The Pete vocal on this is fantastic.
Yes.
Because he's not using any auto-tune on it that I can tell.
Right, I couldn't tell either. This is an example of Pete's voice is fine.
Yeah, it's Pete's rock voice for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's, kind of gravelly like it's become in recent years because he's getting old. Oh, it works so well. And the way that it swells every time he comes to the end of the chorus... Mm-hmm. Is just fantastic.
Right, and I really like the lyrics. This was something that we talked about after our first listen.
Yeah.
I was able to hear him much more clearer than Roger. Sorry, Roger.
Yeah.
But I was able to understand him, and I was able to pick up on some of the lyrics. And the theme of this song, I really like. It doesn't have to be about gun control, per se.
I don't think it is at all.
But I think he uses that as a really strong metaphor, essentially for saying, when you do risky things in life, be careful.
Yes.
Because this gun, whether it's a real gun or metaphorical, is probably going to misfire if you're not careful.
Right, and I think he's going off of what TJR was talking about in his review. He sees it as a metaphor for how the things you say, the actions you take, specifically the things you say. Like, there's the saying of shooting your mouth off, mm-hmm. where the mouth in this case is the gun that Pete is referring to. Mm-hmm. There are things you can say that can literally backfire, apparently, if your mouth is a gun.
Right.
And I thought that's a really clever way to put things.
I really think so, too. And one lyric in particular that we talked about after our first listen was the line he says, you can do this, but if you're not careful, then you'll see how the West was really won.
Yeah.
I really like that because I've heard that phrase for years and years and years. There's an REM song called How the West Was Won. There's a Led Zeppelin album called How the West Was Won. There's even a movie called How the West Was Won. And I had to really realize, you know what? I feel dumb for not really knowing what that phrase means.
Yeah, I think the impetus behind that phrase is realizing that not everything is the storybook that you were told in elementary school.
Right.
You know, Columbus didn't come over and make friends with the Native Americans. No, he killed a bunch of them.
He killed a bunch.
That sort of thing.
Or the idea of, historical Americans, we went out and we conquered the rest. This is our land. Well, there were some, consequences.
There were people here first.
There were casualties. So, I mean, we don't have to dwell too much on that, but it made me realize, like, you know what? I never learned what that phrase means, but now Pete's telling me to pay attention.
Yeah.
Because if you're not careful, you'll see how the West was really won. That gun's going to misfire. And I really dig that. I really dig it.
It makes you think so much more than some of the other songs on the album proper. I think especially more than I'll Be Back. But you pointed out the reincarnation thing, so I'll give it another listen and find out that for myself.
Right. I really read a lot into I'll Be Back, and I really read a lot into This Gun Was This Fire. I like both, and I almost kind of wish, in my opinion, both could have fit on the album, but if you had to pick one, and you're going to pick this one, I'm not going to argue. This is a great sounding track, and as the first bonus track, it was like, this was what we needed after She Rocked My World ended the album for us.
Yeah. Then after This Gun Was Fire is the best surprise we could have asked for.
That we didn't know that we needed.
Yeah.
It's called Got Nothing to Prove, and within 2 seconds of hearing it, my first thought was, well, now we know why this is a bonus track and not on the album.
Right, sure. And that's because it's, like, mostly orchestrated. It's this sort of James Bondy kind of...
Yes, James Bond or Austin Powers.
Yeah, these like, over-the-top orchestra thing. And I'm like, oh, this is nice.
And when Pete starts singing, it is Pete, just not current.
It's Pete from 1966.
Yes.
This is an orchestrated demo that he made for The Who that was never picked up.
My first thought when I heard the vocal, this was a joke, by the way, not real, guys. My first joke was, wow, de-aging technology has really come a long way. Because we thought, for all intents and purposes, this was going to be a current track.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't say anything about what it is.
Yeah, no credits other than the musicians, but no mention of a year or what. It just said, who the orchestra. And I was like, okay, maybe Pete this is a new song they did with an orchestra now, and they know it's a song he did 50 years ago, but they're just kind of now adding orchestra on it.
Right.
And I really like this track.
I do too.
But to be fair, you realize it's from 66. It's like, yeah, Pete got better as a writer.
Oh, yeah.
The lyrics are a little cliche, but I don't mind it because when you listen to a Pete demo from 65 and 66, one that he didn't use, you go, yeah, I'm glad that they didn't use that one. I think about something like Things Have Changed.
Yeah. Glad things have changed. Hearing this one is really nice because
it's a trip.
It's a great throwback. It's a great remember how far we've come.
Yeah.
While also making a good statement in that Roger and Pete at this point in their life, they really don't have anything to prove anymore. They've made their stamp on world and pop history.
Yeah, they got nothing to lose. This album could be crap, and we'd still love them.
Yeah.
We would just want to forget about the album.
Sure.
But yeah, they got nothing to prove anymore. And I really like, listening to it. And, like I said, the lyrics are a little cliche, but I don't mind listening to them. I don't really read too much into this, but I do kind of read into it now. Like, why release this now? And also, why release this as a bonus track on an album when this could be like a digital download or something like that? Yeah. Or just something off the side. But now you're making me think maybe they're putting out because they got nothing to prove.
Yeah. This would have made... Going back to track order here, this would have made the perfect ending to this deluxe edition, but...
This is not the last bonus track.
I wish it were. I wish they just switched it with the next track, which is Danny and My Ponies.
Right, but before we get to that, I want to point out something... I do want to point out something fun on Got Nothing to Prove. You can hear Pete double-tracking himself, and he messes up a few times. Yeah. There's parts where the vocals are out of sync, or there's even one part where he sings Got Nothing, and then stops, because he realizes... that's not where he needs to sing again. Yeah. So it's a fun track. It's fun.
It's fun. It's loose. It's a Pete Townsend demo, which are always really fun to listen to.
But it should have been the last bonus track.
Yeah, because Danny and My Ponies
sucks.
Oh wow, wow. Okay, it's not what I was going to say, but I can see why you say that.
Well, I'm saying that because I'm getting my initial reaction out of the way from when we first heard it. When it ended, I wanted to pick up my chair and throw it.
Oh, good thing you didn't. Because it was in my apartment.
Exactly.
So when I remember listening to this, and we were kind of facing each other listening to it through my speakers, and Tom had kind of half his face hidden behind his hands, just listening to it, and I was kind of just looking over him at points. This song is the heaviest and most egregious use of autotune.
It's the Get Enough of Pete Townsend.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney's song Egypt Station. Go listen to our review. We trashed that one.
Oh yeah. So we're listening to it, and I hear little bits of it. It starts off without much autotune,
mm-hmm.
And then like you hear it come in for a second. We both just kind of went, oh.
Yeah, it was like
we sat up a little bit and just going, oh, woo.
All right, don't use it again.
It's a bonus track. I'm not reading too far into this. Fine, whatever. And then, like, by the time he's using it throughout a whole verse, we're just both sitting there squirming.
Yeah, we're not even looking at each other, but we can feel, like, us grabbing our chairs and rubbing our heads.
And we're just like, oh, make it stop.
Make it stop. And then, like I said, this was the last bonus track. And then when it ended, we were silent for a few seconds, and I broke the silence by saying, "F*** Danny and f*** your ponies."
Oh, no. That's right.
And then you immediately responded with, "How did Pete Townsend get away with this?"
Yes.
And that phrase has stuck with me ever since.
Yeah, okay. So, thing is, I feel like the idea of bonus tracks was introduced pretty late in the game because of something that Roger said recently, just a couple days ago. He was in an interview and said, I don't like the idea of putting bonus tracks on an album.
Mm-hmm.
Because an album should stand alone by itself.
Our best work since Quadrophenia, and you're going to butcher it.
Yeah, and you're just going to stick shit on the end of it. And he said, that's not The Who, that's just bonus material. I see where you're coming from.
But 2 out of these 3 ain't bad.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I get it. But...
They're really good, man.
Yeah.
I was about to say, we may like these bonus tracks, but you know who doesn't?
I was like, I get it, but you also signed off on putting I'll Be Back on the album proper. So...
yeah. Agree to disagree.
Yeah. But going back to Danny and My Ponies, it's like a country ballad sort of thing,
mm-hmm.
telling a story of this Danny character and the narrator's ponies. I don't even remember because I can't concentrate enough on the lyrics.
No, the lyrics are nice. The harmonies are nice. If only I could hear them.
Yeah, because once the auto-tune kicks in, that's all you can hear.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like what happened here was that, yes, the bonus tracks were a last-minute addition, and Pete just didn't have the time or inclination at this point to re-record the vocal track on it and clean it up. Maybe he's just doing an exercise in writing music outside of his vocal range. I don't know. Thing is, it's just, it seems like an easy fix to slap some auto-tune on and call it a day. Because it's a really nicely orchestrated track. Mm-hmm. I like the finger-picked guitar that goes throughout it. I want to hear a cover of this song that sounds really sweet and really lovely.
Me too, actually.
Just to get the vocals off it. Because the auto-tune crap is really distracting and really annoying. It just sounds awful.
It's really bothersome. I want to like it. It's got some nice harmony, some nice finger picking, everything that you'd want from a Pete Townsend acoustic song. Pete Townsend can play acoustic like no other.
Yeah.
But I want to hear it. Pete, you don't need autotune. You sound fine.
Yeah.
And I do agree. It's like he's experimenting because he hears other musicians, especially his age, who are doing it. Brian Wilson, Paul McCartney. And he's like, well, I don't want to get wise and not use it.
Sure.
I want to use it because I can, but I don't think he really needs it. And it's really bothersome. I would love to hear someone cover this or to have someone go back and remix it, take out the autotune. Same with I'll Be Back. Even though I love that song, I want to hear it without the autotune because both are sweet songs.
Yeah, see, I was about to suggest, like, if you're going to redo it, get a really good vocal take, and if there are any places where the pitch is off, just nudge it like they did with I'll Be Back.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, in I'll Be Back, it's only noticeable if you're looking for it.
Right.
Give it that kind of light touch.
But you can definitely find the autotune here.
Ugh.
It's right in your ears and
your soul.
It was tough because when she
nails on a chalkboard, man.
It was tough because She Rocked My World ended the album, and this ends the bonus tracks.
Yeah.
So we were let down on 2 different endings on the same CD.
Yeah, it was super frustrating.
It was super frustrating. We had a long talk afterward about the album, and I came to the conclusion right then and there. It's like, I want to like it, and I think that I will.
Yes, I agree.
And I've grown to like a bit more on the album.
Yeah.
And we also kind of got our immediate reactions, like what were our like 3 favorites and 3 least favorites. And we also stopped the album after She Rock and Roll to discuss, that's the album. Yeah. How do we feel? Mm-hmm. And it's a bit tough because for all intents and purposes, they didn't need to make this album.
No.
But I get why, because Roger's getting old, and he was in the hospital, and there was that running thought. I'm sure Pete looked at Roger in his hospital bed thinking, if I want to make music with this guy, time is running out.
Yeah, and something similar to how Roger felt when Wilco Johnson was diagnosed with his cancer. Or like the next day, Roger called Wilco and said, all right, we've been talking about making an album, so we got to make it happen now before you die.
Yeah.
Probably said it more tactfully.
Exactly, because Wilco is still alive, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And that album is rocking.
That album slaps.
That album is very much like
cover.
That album is very much like if Wilco did kick the bucket. You know what? Not a bad note at all to go out on.
Yes, but who, as it stands in its original track ordering, could use some major improvement.
Right. So we did talk about rearranging the track listing, putting Ball and Chain at the beginning, put All This Music Was Faded at the end, replace I'll Be Back with This Gun Will Misfire. Yeah. So that way the bonus tracks in the order are I'll Be Back, Danny and My Ponies, and Got Nothing to Prove.
Yeah. That is how I listen to it. If you can think of a cool way to rearrange it that makes more sense to you, more power to you. And I rationalize this by a lot of people will say the artist's original album track order is important and you shouldn't mess with that. And I get that. I agree with that for the most part. But Pete has very clearly said in the
very first song,
and All This Music Must Fade, he couldn't give a
Right. If we went to Pete and just showed him our track order and apologized, he'd be like, so?
He'd be like, I'm glad you found a way that makes my album enjoyable to you.
Right.
More enjoyable to you.
Right.
So I don't feel bad about rearranging it at all.
Right. He gave us his blessing.
If you want to just delete I'll Be Back or Break the News or whatever.
The whole album?
Sure. If you want to just go with 3 songs from the album, more power to you.
Pete gave you his blessing on the first track.
Yeah. So I don't feel guilty about doing that. And now I found a way to make this album a good time for me. Heck, I stuck Be Lucky on my version of this album. Because it doesn't really fit much anywhere else.
No,
but
it doesn't. And that's another thing that we talked about is, if they had ended their career with Be Lucky, that's like the going away message, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's how Roger ends all the concerts, by saying, good night and be lucky. Mm-hmm. And that song is kind of like their antithesis of, for all intents and purposes, of not saying goodbye, but wishing you well.
Yeah.
And if they had kind of ended there, and Who Never Existed, I mean, it'd be a shame, because there's some really damn good songs in this album.
Yeah.
But if they ended with Be Lucky, we were talking about, honestly, I don't think we would have really minded, but we welcome new Who music with open arms.
Yes.
Just not all of it we embrace.
Yeah.
And
some of it we say, get out of my house.
Get out of my house. And even the autotune after Danny and My Ponies, there's a little bit of autotune in Be Lucky. After Danny and My Ponies ended, I turned to Garrett and said, you know what? I finally get why Pete used autotune in Get Lucky. Because he uses it as a joke.
Be Lucky, it's like, he's referencing Daft Punk. I'm like, okay, that's clever. That's funny. I like it.
But it didn't, it was a joke that, I understood it, but I didn't find it funny. And then after Danny and My Ponies, I was like, you know what? Be Lucky is hilarious now. Because there they had a purpose for using it as a joke. Here the purpose is they just can.
Yeah.
And I wasn't big on it, but I immediately was like, Be Lucky is awesome now.
Yeah. So I'd say we definitely recommend this album. Go to Target and get the deluxe edition so you can have the most customization options with it.
Right. That's what I'll say. I'll recommend getting it because I would recommend finding a track order that works for you.
Yes.
Because you have the blessing to do so.
You have the power.
A couple final things.
Okay.
They were going to tour regardless because they're getting old, time's running out.
Yeah.
To be fair, Pete in his wonderful Pete wisdom was like, we're not going to tour unless we have new material.
Yes.
So I was like, good. Yes. I like that.
Uh-huh.
That means that we get new music. and they're not going to go out as an oldies act. They don't want to get wise to keep quoting that song and be like, hey, here's a 2.5 hours of all of our hits and nothing else. It's like, no, here's some new music that we're really going to push.
If I wanted that, I would pop the Ultimate Collection into my CD player again.
Right. I mean, we saw him back in 2015. It was a great show, but there was nothing new.
Yeah.
Whereas we're going to see them in a few months, and I'm actually a little more excited because we'll get to hear new stuff.
Yeah, and I'm glad that it's going to be in a few months instead. We originally planned to see them in September, but then Roger was sick the night that he was going to come to Dallas, so they had to reschedule for April. I'm like, oh, okay,
right. I don't think that's why the album itself was delayed, because I think the album was pretty much done.
Yeah, it was.
But anyway, we have the album now. We definitely recommend going out and getting it, and then doing whatever you want to it if you don't like it 100%, because that's exactly what we've done. We are also giving you our blessing.
Yeah.
So I do
as much as good a thing as that is to get.
Exactly. So I get why they made it, because time is running out. I don't think it's one that, if you really look at it, it really needed to happen. But there's some really damn good songs on there. They're like, I'm glad that they did this. And I don't really think there's any message besides All This Music Must Fade as the opener that really is saying, that in case this is our last album, here's a little, like, wish you well. Yeah. If All This Music Must Fade were the ending track, it would definitely work a lot better. That would be the we wish you well, music is awesome, just celebrate it. Yeah. But the way it stands now, it's a little frustrating in track order. Right.
So please, let us know, what do you think about Who, if you've listened to it. Give us your thoughts. Give us your alternate track listings. Mm-hmm. We'd love to hear your thoughts about it.
Right. You've heard all our thoughts on all the songs. So if you want to tally them up and say which ones we liked versus which ones we didn't, and then do a ratio and find out our grade, well, then there you go. I think we've laid it all out. We've given you the math equation, so now you solve it. If you want to desperately find out what is their grade.
Yeah.
And
that's about it, right?
Yeah, that's really all I got on.
We got pluggables
on New 2019. We got pluggables.
Do we?
Well, this is the first episode that is going to be up on Vlare .tv, our new platform site.
If you're still watching this on YouTube, go check it out.
Right. So if you're listening on Vlare, thank you for joining us. And please subscribe so that you never miss anyone. We're going to be posting to Vlare from now on. We're really happy to be here, and we're happy that you're here too. Yeah. So thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you.
All right. So with that, we say good night.
Goodbye.
And be lucky. So, I'm Tom Urrutia.
I'm Garrett Hicks. Thanks for listening, y'all.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, it's Tom. Thank you all so much for listening to our review of the new album by The Who, simply titled Who. Let us know what you think of the album and about our show in the comments. This episode will be on YouTube the week after premiering on Vlare, so be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. See you all soon. Bye-bye. Hello, Internet. Hello, Internet's too much like game theory, so let me start that over again. Here we go.
It's hard can go.
Whoa!
I believe that.
Anyway. This is the Edge of Tomorrow of The Who.
I believe you mean Live, Die, Repeat.
No, it's called All You Need Is Kill, actually.
Oh my god.
That's the name of the manga. For those who don't know what it is, we just told you what we're talking about.
Anyway.
This song has layers, and I really like it.
Yeah. So it's the Shrek Onion.
It's the Shrek Onion.
All right, I did the meme. Let's move on.
I mean, I quoted memes. I've already been quoting memes myself with this review.
So song 4. We're not doing Magic Bus so much as The Real Me, Pete. Okay, you know what I'm saying? In Real Me, he played a ridiculous over-the-top bass solo over the demo.
He plays lead bass.
Right. When they were first working on it, in the demo, he played this over-the-top bass solo kind of bass part. And Pete just goes, you know what? How about you just do that for the final version? And John's like, hell yeah, I will.
I know, I love hearing his bass in The Real Me. It's just so upfront and so lean, like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
It just goes, and it just goes a sign of what to come, After that, they did the famous Live Dreaming from the Waste, which I've always said, is more of a bass spotlight than a solo, only
Yeah.
because Pete's not playing anything phenomenal, which leaves space for John to fill it in.
Yeah.
And
That one's been characterized as a bass solo with a song attached.
yeah, but to me, it's just like it's definitely a bass spotlight. I wouldn't call it solo because the solo implies
Right.
that
Everyone drops out. Yeah.
or he's brought to the front. But you still clearly hear Keith and Pete doing their thing.
Yeah.
But that was definitely a bass highlight. And
Alright,
we're out.
we done it. We done did it. Alright.
And in splendid 2 hours,
Oh.
it's no surprise when you said, I want to talk about
I
it.
have thoughts.
I mean, we talked for 2 whole hours on this damn thing.
I'm glad.
Needless to say, we did have thoughts, and I'm actually looking through all my notes, I was writing a lot more notes than usual, and I was thinking, usually I like to keep minimal notes, but I did have a lot to say too.
Yeah.
The only things that I didn't mention were just very minimal things. When I told about the rap section, her immediate reaction was just dead silence. No. But I kind of put that in there as well. There's one more thing. Oh yeah, Detour. Very minimal note. It didn't need to be mentioned. It should have faded like 5 to 10 seconds earlier. They fade out a little too long. But that's it. That's the only minimal note that didn't get put in, but I don't even care.
Yeah.